This is a thrill. It's very funny. I'm a huge fan of first Law and Order and now the Chicago franchise. And I have to tell you, my boss told me before, because I'm a journalist and we're supposed to remain, impartial and distant. He said, Anna, whatever you do, don't get up there and gush. But I'm sorry, there might be some gushing here today. Anyway, let's start. So, Dick, you had given us years and years of the fabulous Law and Order franchise based in New York. Question, why Chicago, and how did this franchise start?
Well, this franchise started with Fire, but the reason that we moved to Chicago, in all honesty, was that a show called Rescue Me, which was about firefighters in New York after 9/11, had just gone off, and I did not want to bring another fire show into New York because it's a totally different type of show. We don't have ghosts and things like that, and it's much more, in all honesty, kind of a blue-collar soap opera. And the values that first responders live by is sort of exemplified by the attitudes in the Midwest as opposed to the coast, and specifically Chicago, which is the heart of the heartland. So that's how we ended up there, and I think it's a fairly accurate representation of those values.
Absolutely. And you started with one show, and how early into the process did you get the idea for PD and then Med?
Well, in all honesty, while we were shooting the pilot, we were standing on a bridge going over the Chicago River, and I turned to Peter Jankowski, who runs Wolf Films, and said, I think there are 2 or 3 more shows here. And when I first mentioned it to Bob Greenblatt about 3 weeks after Fire went on, he said, it's a little quick. Let's just see how this goes. But PD did go on the next year. So
excellent. Colin, I'll start with you. You had been in shows prior to this one that had nothing to do with the medical profession. I understand Wolf Films has a bit of a boot camp for actors. What did you go through to prepare for the role?
We did.
He's a doctor.
Taylor, trust me. We did. We all spent about a week getting the most basic of the basic tools to look like we knew what we were doing beforehand. But really, it's all about our medical consultants who work on the show and actually working alongside, just like Fire has real firemen along with them. We have nurses, surgeons, doctors who are with us, adding to all that authenticity.
And Torrey, speak a little bit about the challenge. Again, I don't think you were a doctor by profession. Speak a little bit to the fact of having to say these long medical terms and performing these procedures, and whether it's surgery or...
Yeah, the actual terms are kind of like muscle memory. Like the more you do them, the easier, but lack of a better word, it's not easy, but the easier they become. And it's really just repetition. I mean, it's like the day before, 2 days before, you're in the shower, you're saying the word. You're washing your dishes, you're saying the word. You're doing laundry, working out, you're saying the word. And everybody thinks you're a crazy person because you're walking around town like saying this word, just shaking your head, looking at the ground like, oh, am I ever going to get it? But yeah, it was a challenge. But to me, the biggest challenge of being a doctor was finding their demeanor. Because to me as an actor, it's like, I have to go in and I'm saving this life and I am a doctor. And that's not how they are at all. It's just controlled chaos and confidence. So,
wow. Taylor, you weren't a fireman before. What kind of, and Jesse, what kind of preparation did you go through? Because my understanding is the gear that you wear is the actual gear that firemen wear. So it's nice and light and makes your movements really easy, right?
No, it's not nice and light at all. It's heavy. I don't know out there in the crowd if anyone is a volunteer or an actual firefighter for a state community, but what these people do is incredible. The gear that they wear, it's heavy, and you sweat, and Law and Order's on. Hold on.
You got a phone. Oh wait, Justin. We got a new series.
Oh, Ice-T. Ice-T just called. Oh, it's all good. Don't worry. He solved the case.
All under control. We're professionals.
We're firefighters. It's all good.
Exits are here, here.
But
and
no,
here.
it's just across the board. It's been a humbling experience to be a part of this community and a part of Dick Wolf's camp and his vision and what he started with Law and Order trickles down through. You look at what's going on with Chicago now in the series, and we have fire, PD, med, now law, and I think the crossovers, and hopefully for the fans out there, for all of you people that watch and enjoy the shows, you get attached to a character or maybe a show, and you see this transition with a character or a show, and you follow it to the next, and you know, hopefully you watch it, and there's a lot of just bad stuff in the world. Hopefully you can just detach and get a little reprieve for an hour and watch some television and love it. That's it.
But Jesse,
I forgot what the question was.
I'll give you another one. Don't
okay.
worry. We were talking yesterday.
Okay, yeah.
We were talking yesterday about the fact that one of your colleagues, who unfortunately couldn't be here, but Ipetha said the great quote: "A viewer will sit down to be entertained and will leave the show stand up and having learned something."
You said that was going to be. I was going to say.
Oh, you can say it again. Go ahead. You can say it again.
You already said it. You blew it. That was our whole deal.
I know
okay,
we had our
mind.
shtick and we blew it. Sorry about that.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, just on a side note, Ipetha and Oliver Platt were meant to be here, but ironically, both have injured themselves. Oliver blew his knee out, and Ipetha hurt her back. So I think next is me and Taylor are going to get burned at some point. I'm sorry, I've forgotten the question again. It's been a long day and a long night.
I want to get into the fact that these shows portray real world, real life characters. Of course,
Right.
you play them, and that they offer the audience more than just the drama of life and death. We learn about whether it's what the firemen do or the medical profession.
Right. Well, it's. I mean, it's complicated, but these professions, I think, are very noble, and I think immediately people connect with firemen right from the get-go. They're people that we looked up to. They're people that we respect, and it's nice to delve into their personal lives. And the authenticity really does come from the real firefighters that we have around. Like in Med, they have real doctors. PD has real cops, and without that, you know, that those communities surrounding us, there's no way, I don't think we could have, or at least brought to life, you know, put on screen something that people can connect to because they're communities and they're strong. You know, through thick and thin, they really, you know, they have their foibles, as anybody does, but they're a strong community, and that's the spirit that we take, you know, when we try to make these shows. It always comes back to it's people. I mean, it's their emotional lives, but it's a very noble profession, and being involved in that is just, I mean, it's an eye-opener. Every time I think we're making a drama, suddenly I feel like, you know, we're so involved in, you know, when a firefighter dies, you know, and it happens. You know, we have firefighters come to the firehouse and in dress blues while we're shooting scenes, and they come from Toronto and Chicago for a guy they never even knew. You know, and it's hard not to let that emotional life inform exactly what you're doing. So hopefully, you know, if we're doing our job correctly, that the audience will feel the same thing.
Right.
It's a calling. You can't pay people to run into burning buildings. That's the real bottom line.
Right. Absolutely.
It's crazy.
And working in the ER is no walk in the park either. No. Yeah. Brian, so you play a character who is not only a very good doctor, but sometimes prone to being impulsive, and you've had a past where you were a little... You have fans here, too. Yes. So how did you prepare for the role? And that segues into a question that I would have asked Oliver, but he's not here, so maybe all of you can answer that for me. He said that even though he plays a psychiatrist, an actor in first approaching a character has to be a bit of a psychologist to understand the motivation. So why don't you take that?
I guess approaching this role, I feel there definitely is a responsibility, I guess, kind of jumping on what Jesse and Dick have said, especially, portraying people, of service. I think that's such, for myself, a prideful thing that I definitely take to heart. And I just wanted to give it the authenticity that we've all talked about and kind of be true to its form as best as possible. So, I think I took it very seriously as far as being a doctor and taking in the mannerisms and especially in certain situations. And I mean, what I did, I kind of just started from the inside out and the ground up, and not to go on about actors' talk, but fortunately for me, my brother is a doctor, and he actually works in the ER. So I basically shadowed him for as long as I could. Yeah. And he's got a particular sensibility, odd enough, that's very similar to the character that I'm playing. Him and I are completely different human beings. He's very black and white. I'm much more colorful and the artist of the group, or the black sheep, or whatever you want to call it. But it was so interesting because he's my older brother, and we have this relationship of almost like brotherly disrespect towards one another. When I was following him and actually shadowing him, and when he kind of just turned it on, and there was this incident, I won't go on too far, this person was basically just maimed his hand, and my brother kind of took him, sat him down, and just started cleaning his hand and asking him questions and looking him in the eyes. And you just saw the fear in the person's eyes. But my brother was so calm in his demeanor and just so appreciative that this guy would actually come, and he would actually treat him. And I was kind of standing in the back in awe, and had so much admiration and respect for my brother now in his line of work, that I just wanted to kind of take that into mine and to my character and kind of give that its justice.
How do you know he wasn't putting it on?
Right, just for me kind of showing up, be like, my brother's here, I better act professional. I better act professional in this situation.
Torrey and Colin, in several episodes, if not almost all, the doctors aren't always in agreement about how to treat a patient. And one episode that comes to mind was the do not resuscitate order that was not followed. Well, how is it to play that, and why is it important to show the fact that in those moments of life and death, there can be disagreement?
I think personally what I love about the show is it takes these superhuman people that you think of as doctors and, police officers and firemen, and you think they're like superhuman, and it shows that they have all the emotion, all the problems, all the love triangles, all the drama of anybody else, so it kind of humanizes them. And to show that within their job, that, some doctors aren't just black and white, as Brian was saying. And, with the thing with Dr. Halstead and Natalie, he comes from if it makes sense medically, then it makes sense and you do it. And she comes from a place of, but these are also people, and they may not want that, and you have to respect that. And to show that, doctors have that back and forth, and it's not just black and white, I think is really interesting to watch, because you don't really realize that. When you see a doctor, you just think they know everything. It's like, fix me, and you think they can. So it was that was a fun. But I don't think we all disagree with each other. I just think everybody disagrees with Dr. Halstead.
Colin, do you agree with that?
Oh, yeah. I don't know how much I can add to that, actually.
Okay. Dick, your shows famously impart information. We can learn more from an episode of any one of your shows than we can from a documentary or a news report. Why has that been important to you?
Well, it is really an opportunity that if you don't take advantage of, it would be a shame not to be able to communicate information. That we're incredibly lucky on Med, because I when the script started to come in, Andy Schneider and Diane Froloff, who were the showrunners, who were married to each other, we were coming back from Chicago, and I was really surprised in the early episodes how well the doctors were written and how insightfully. And I said, how do you know, because I've known them for years, but I didn't know this. And I said, how do you guys know this much stuff? And Andy said, well, my mother and father were doctors. And Diane said, and my first husband was a doctor. So that's a lot of medical knowledge that you usually don't have in writers, because it all starts with the writing. The writing is what keeps these shows alive. These guys are all really great, but they don't make up the words.
Oh, come on, Dick. It's about the actors.
It's about everybody. It's an amazing fact. It's the most collaborative art form ever invented, because it's different than movies where people come together and there is a community that lasts 2 or 3 months. Here, these people are together every day for years at a time. And what we are extraordinarily lucky in having had happen, and it's due to a great degree to these two guys, that when Fire started, I said, you guys are going to be stuck here for hopefully a long time. And how you treat each other and how you interact is going to have an enormous effect on the show. And look, maybe it's, everybody is a refugee in Chicago, but they started developing relationships that extend beyond the studio or beyond the stage. And when PD started, I gave them the same speech: just follow what they're doing on Fire and you guys will be fine. And the fact is, it's a remarkable group of now, whatever it is, 36 actors, and everybody, there are no obvious camps or people who don't get along. It's quite something to see.
Okay, so how did that come about on Fire, and that then became an example for the other shows? You were thrown into a city that you didn't live in and you didn't know. How did you sort of clung to each other, so to speak?
Yeah, and I think that's. I mean, here's the thing. When I lived in London for 4 years, and I think a lot of the work. There's a lot of work in London, but it's mostly regional. And when you send actors out of their safe space and you throw them into, a little town or, into a certain situation, they come together. And I was hoping, because Los Angeles is a fantastic place, but it can be quite sort of, I don't know. When you're working regionally, everybody's in the same boat, and so you really tend to stick together. And that's why this show never would have worked if it was shot in Los Angeles. I know you probably never even considered that at the start. Probably for partly because, not always because, but the actors tend to stick together. Do you know what I mean? And then you're thrown into the deep end. You become a little bit of a surrogate family, which mirrored fantastically into what Firehouse 51 is about, and hence why the people connect to the show.
Right, and you're not calling Chicago a town, are you? I'm from Chicago. I mean, it's more than a town.
Well, you call it. I mean,
it's a big
towns,
town.
Yeah, I know. I would call it a metropolis, but yeah, they call it a town because it does have a town feel, and that's what's great about it.
It's a group of neighborhoods.
Yeah, it's a group of neighborhoods together. But you're right, it's a metropolis.
All right, we've set up the show. I think we have a video clip that we're going to see now, and then we'll start taking questions from the audience.